Hello, my name is Jessica Warner, and I am the Director of Continuous Monitoring at Synthesis Brain Health. It is an umbrella company of Neurovative Diagnostics, Lifelines Neuro, and Ambulatory Neurological Services. I've been in remote monitoring for about 6 years, working as a remote monitoring tech, making my way to clinical coordinator, EEG scanner, supervisor, manager, and now director. I have personally interviewed likely over 8,000 EEG technologists, and I've had the honor of hiring, onboarding, and managing well over 100 EEG technologists in that 6-year time frame. I want to start off by noting that watching this video will not guarantee you a position at any company. My job today is to help you prepare so that these companies see the most accurate and best version of you in hopes that you stand out and secure that position. I can confidently say that there are many great remote companies out there, and my hope is that you can find a position that best aligns with your life and interest. So, table of contents, we have qualifications, resume building, company fit, interview process, the big one, competency assessment, and then lastly, workflow. So let's start off with qualifications. You're required to have your ABRAT registry in EEG. Some companies do also require CLTM within 2 years of hire. So you have to decide if that's a realistic and obtainable goal for you. If it is, most of these companies do provide educational resources to aid you to meet that goal. So don't let it scare you away. Next is 3 to 5 years of experience minimum. This could be reviewing or scanning continuous EEG or ambulatory studies, time spent in the epilepsy monitoring unit, or experience with other remote EEG companies where you monitored continuous studies. Typically, this does not include schooling, but some companies do include your clinical experience. Next, adult, neonate, and pediatric experience. Some companies will not hire you if you do not have pediatric or neonate exposure. But saying that, there are many companies that still would. I just wanted to give you a heads up that there are some remote companies out there that have so many pediatric hospitals that it's really important that you have that pediatric exposure for them to hire you. Next is a HIPAA compliant workspace, which consists of 4 walls and a door, having a workspace free from unauthorized viewing. So you really have to decide, man, I'm about to receive a lot of EEG equipment. Do I have the space for it? And where am I going to put it in my house to ensure that it's HIPAA compliant? Next is reliable internet and cell phone services. This is for my rural friends. I personally live in central Pennsylvania, and my husband had to pay for a tower. He had to pay a few $1,000s to get it installed to ensure I met the internet minimum requirement. This is to ensure that there's no lag while live monitoring because, of course, patient safety comes first. So most companies require a minimum of 50 Mbps download speed. So what you can do if you're curious is you can log into speedtest.net and check your internet speeds. So I get this question a lot. What if I don't qualify? Am I just chopped liver? My greatest advice is that you are your best advocate. If you don't have the experience, what are you doing to bridge that gap? I look for candidates that have the drive to grow in this field. Can they find resources and continue to educate themselves in best practices? I do have a few ideas that might help though. If you have an epilepsy monitoring unit, you can ask your employer to shadow to further develop your skill set. You can attend EEG boot camp, conferences, read books, utilize online resources. This is number 3 is what I did when I first got into EEG. I scanned studies at my hospital. I decided what I thought I was seeing. I typed up my own technologist report And then I went into the EMR and I checked what the physician impression was to see if I was correct. So that was one of the best ways that I learned in the early stages of my career. Request that your hospital host Q&A sessions with your epileptologist. Start small. You could say, hey, is there an epileptologist that is willing to provide education to us once a month? I will say that a lot of hospitals, a lot of epileptologists that I've interacted with, they are open to providing that education. So even just asking the question, maybe it is an option. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not, but it's worth trying. Next is consider companies with remote intermittent monitoring. So if there's no way that you have the experience, you can say, okay, maybe I can try out remote intermittent monitoring and grow my experience in that regard and work my way from there. Lastly is utilize your resources and network. I wouldn't have gotten here today if it weren't for the connections I've made along the way. Even if you worked in the hospital with somebody and you see that they're now a remote monitoring technologist somewhere, feel free to reach out to them and say, hey, what did you do to get to that position? Do you have any advice? Is there somebody on your team that I can email to possibly get an interview to work for your company as well? So even if you go to conferences, don't be afraid to meet new people. I can definitely say that there's a lot of kindness in this field, and there's a lot of people in this field that want you to succeed. So it's definitely worth a try. So next up, resume building. You want to use a professional email address. The newest trend is that the summary section, the About Me section is optional. I will say I do enjoy reading what candidates say, though. It gives me a little picture into their world. Try to condense it to 1 to 2 pages maximum. Unless you have 20 years experience in EEG, try to keep the job experience relevant. I don't need to know that 15 years ago you worked at TJ Maxx. So just try to keep it as relevant as possible. There's no need nowadays to include your full address. I love this. I don't know why. But you can just include your city and state. That's sufficient. You're going to want to name your resume. First name, last name, resume. It's funny, for some reason, I get the most random resume names. Sometimes it's just first name, last name, final, last name, 2018. But over the years, I've gotten really odd named resumes coming through my desk. Next up is unless a company utilizes resume parsing software that requires you to upload via Word document, definitely convert it to PDF. I prefer reading a resume in PDF format. Lastly, and most importantly, challenge yourself to read it in 10 seconds or less. And what is your takeaway? Are those most important things that you want that company to see? Are you able to see that in the 10 seconds that you're looking at your resume? So pretend you're a hiring manager and you just got the green light to hire. You have 30 resumes to look through in a short period of time. What are you looking for? You're looking for qualifications, their registry, their experience. Make it clear that you have your registry and EEG on your resume. Most importantly, make sure your experience is very clear. What patient populations did you work with? What specifically did you do in your position? Routine and ambulatory only? Set up LTMs, or did you also monitor or scan them? Did you notify the physician of abnormal findings? Did you type up a technologist summary or report? Do you have experience sitting in the EMU monitoring? Did you scan ambulatory studies, clip prune them for the physician? You want to make all that experience very clear. If you don't have the experience, what are you going to do to bridge that gap? That is going to come up in the interview process. Another tip, if you are a traveler, make it clear. Otherwise, it looks like you're changing jobs every 13 weeks. So every now and then I come through a resume and I'm like, oh my gosh, why do they have so many different hospitals within 1 year? And then I'm like, oh, okay, they're a traveler. Don't assume that they know just because of the company you're working for, like, oh, that's a traveling company. Of course they're a travel tech. The interviewer might not know that, so make it very clear if you are a traveler that you're a traveling tech. I did want to quickly note this mock resume I quickly built. As you see on the left-hand side here, it clearly states I have my RAGT, my CLTM, the registry numbers. In the skills section, what EMRs do I have exposure to and know how to navigate, Epic, PowerChart, Meditech, etc. What EEG systems do I have exposure to, such as Natus, Neon Codon, Cadwell, Lifelines? I've been in remote monitoring for 6 years, so I've seen them all. But you could even say you're a super user when it comes to Natus. Of course, Microsoft Suites. Do you have adult, pediatric, and neonate experience? And then do you have experience inpatient, outpatient, ambulatory? LTM, EMU, surgicals, definitely all important things to note. This is the most important slide, company fit. Do your needs and values align with the company's? I'll say it again. Do your needs and values align with the company's? I'm not saying that they have to check every single box. You might have to compromise on a few things, but I don't want you to sell yourself short. Does this company fit you and your family's needs? So, things to consider. Shifts. Are the shifts in 4-hour, 8-hour, or 12-hour increments? You can even ask them in the interview process. I want you to walk me through a typical shift working for your company. How does their scheduling work? Do you pick up shifts or are they assigned based on the availability you place every month? Is there an on-call requirement? Is there an availability requirement where you're required to work so many nights and weekends? Are there weekly shift minimums where you need to commit to X amount of shifts per week? This is so important if you already have a full-time job and this is just your PRN position. Are they hiring PRN part-time or full-time? What about compensation needs? Is it hourly versus salary? Are there options to make overtime, health insurance? What other benefits will they provide? Is there shift differential or other monetary incentives? How are you supported on a shift if you need help? That is a huge question to ask. If you're super overwhelmed during your shift, you feel like you've got so much on your plate that maybe you're not focusing on your patient enough safely. Can you reach out to somebody on your shift, like a shift supervisor or coordinator, and say, hey, I need help? If you see a questionable EEG pattern and you're like, hey, I need a second opinion, is there somebody on that shift that has your back? I think that is a very, very important question to ask. What equipment does the company provide? You don't want to accept a position with a company and then have to find out that you need to fork over $1,000 for EEG equipment. Or alternatively, if they're going to say, hey, we provide all the equipment, but that's going to come with 6 24-inch monitors. Do you currently have a desk that can fit that? Or maybe do you have to consider that you might have to buy a bigger desk, which might not be a big deal, but all things just to consider. Lastly, consider the trajectory of the company as well as the trajectory of your career. Are there opportunities for growth? Interview process. Many companies have a multi-step interview process. I will highlight the key areas below. Show up to an interview well rested, have a pen and paper on hand. Make sure you have questions to ask at the end. I always get so sad when I'm finished with an interview and they have 0 questions. Maybe I just do a great job about explaining everything, but I doubt it. So definitely at least think of a couple questions at the end to ask. It's okay to be nervous. We are all human. And then lastly, consider sending a follow-up thank you email after an interview is over. I even like to write down the names of the people that were in my interview. If there's multiple people, I like to add them in the thank you follow-up email. So we'll start with meet. Typically, the first interview is more informal. It might be with HR. It's usually just one person. They get to know you and learn about your work experience to ensure that you qualify for the position. Next is the assessment. You complete a competency assessment to ensure your skill set aligns with the company needs. This typically entails a terminology section, as well as adult, pediatric, and neonate samples, followed by a brief IT portion. So we're going to get into that further in the next slide. Final. Some companies may require a final interview. This is more formal. It may have many people on the call. This call may dive into more complex questions, some behavioral questions. It's just their attempt to get to know you on a deeper level to ensure it's a great fit for both of you. All right, now we're at the competency assessment. I recommend taking the assessment on your laptop, not on your phone. There have been some times that I'm interviewing somebody and they're like, "Oh, I'm on my phone. Can I do this on my phone?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no. Please get a laptop out." And then they have to power up their laptop. So just be prepped that if you're completing a competency assessment, you want to do it on your laptop. I want to note at the end of this presentation, I do have resource recommendations if ACNS terminology is not a strong suit of yours. EEG Talk on YouTube has a great ACNS terminology series, and I also hope to speak on it more in the newsletter over time. So we'll start with ACNS terminology. So pop open that ACNS Pocket Guide. Are you up to date on the latest ACNS terminology? Can you differentiate an EEG that is nearly continuous, discontinuous versus in burst suppression? Next up is adult patterns, from sharp waves to seizures and everything in between. Can you differentiate a wicket spike from a sharp wave? Can you identify a critical finding? It's the most important. Can you identify a critical finding and notify the physician when seconds count? Pediatric patterns. Everything is bigger and more dramatic when it comes to pediatric EEG, especially in sleep. A run of vertex waves, hypnagogic hypersynchrony, tonic seizures, and the complex world of pediatric syndromes. The normal sleep features on these EEGs will even keep the best in our field guessing. Neonate patterns. Our most vulnerable patient population also happens to be the most complex. Active sleep, quiet sleep, premature patterns. Why is it rhythmic? Why is there no field? And have you begun to learn neonatal transients? And if you don't feel comfortable reading EEG or neonatal EEG, will your company help bridge that gap? I will say Alyssa Finley did a talk on neonatal EEG a couple years ago, and to this day, when I'm reading or scanning a neonate, I pull up that PowerPoint to make sure that I'm getting it right. So it's okay if you're not perfect with neonates, but do you have that drive to bridge that gap? Especially if the company provides those resources, are you going to read them and get to where you need to be to safely monitor that patient? Technology. There are many complex technical components to being a remote monitoring technologist. Not only will you see computer issues, the technologist workflow. Your everyday technologist workflow might require use of complex programs, applications, and a company might want to make sure you won't overwrite a template. So be prepared to possibly test in this field as well. If you are not familiar with the ACNS Pocket Guide, print it out, tattoo it on your arm, make it your best friend. Every day that I read an EEG, I still reference this chart. So are you able to pull up an EEG and go through each column and accurately provide a technical impression within your scope, of course? Do you know how to measure a waveform to determine the voltage? If there are abnormalities, can you properly identify them? I can say the epileptiform finding section is more complex. We don't expect perfection. The most important thing I care about is if this patient has a critical EG finding, will you be able to identify it and notify the appropriate person? If you're questioning abnormal finding, you can get a second opinion on your shift. You are not an epileptologist, so we do not expect you to read at that level, but we value technologists with critical thinking skills. Lastly, workflow. This can absolutely depend on what company you're applying at, and a great question to bring up as an interview question. Like I said in the beginning, what is your typical shift workflow? Remote monitoring is not for everyone. I will say that again. Remote monitoring is not for everyone. It requires a high level of attention to detail, knowledge of basic IT troubleshooting, excellent communication skills, and critical thinking. The onboarding experience may be fast-paced. There may be multiple platforms and applications that you'll need to navigate, and everything just might go wrong all at the same time. In the interview process, I look for signs that a candidate can handle a fast-paced environment, navigating multiple platforms, and stepping up when seconds count. I also want to state that it is management's job to provide a strong onboarding experience to support the technologist and continue to support them throughout their career. So a basic workflow for continuous monitoring consists of the tech to patient ratio for continuous monitoring is 4:1. This means that one technologist is responsible for continuous eyes-on live monitoring for up to 4 patients simultaneously. Continuously monitor the patient's EEG and video for the duration of the recording. Contact on-site staff for maintenance, such as electrode maintenance and troubleshooting based on facility protocols. Documenting and notifying appropriate parties regarding critical anomalies, of course, is so important. Maintain patient handoff documents and patient logs. Patient safety is at the forefront of patient care. If a patient safety concern arises, being able to notify the appropriate party per facility protocol. The resources listed here are for are educational resources, but I also did want to add in career prep help as well. So Asset has a great career resource section, and I just happened to notice the other day that NeuroPathways does as well. My favorite educational resource is learningeeg.com. But of course, as you see here, there are endless resources. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you ever attend a conference, feel free to say hi. If you're nervous and need someone to give you resume feedback, just know that my door is open. So my email is listed above there. And, if this is the path that you want to go down, I wish you all the best.